Yo, 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 what's going on, everybody? This is going to be a live video. We're just popping on here real quick to come on and bring you some information about what's happening in Salt Lake City, what's happening in around the area. Let me just go ahead and set this up for us so we can get this going. Okay, cool. So I just want to share a little bit of information here with you guys. Let me make sure this is working. We're going to be talking about haunted houses. We're going to be talking about water in today's video. We're going to be talking about the housing market. We're going to talk about interest rates. We're going to cover a couple of different things here. And I think this is going to be really helpful information for you. And yeah, so let's go ahead and jump into it. So let me come back over here. As always, guys, if you're thinking about making a move here, reach out to me. My information will be here on the screen and in the description box below. I'd love to hear from you and see how I can help you make that move or make a transition here within the state, whether you're looking to buy, sell, or even invest in real estate in this crazy market. I have a lot to share about that. If you want to know more about your individual situation and maybe what I'd recommend you do, then go ahead and reach out to me, and I'd love to help however I can. All right, so let's jump into this. So first up, we've got Utah Haunted House named a top U.S. venue to get spooked. Now, this is pretty cool. I'm not actually somebody who loves haunted houses. I kind of don't like haunted houses. In fact, I don't know that I've ever been to one. To be totally honest, I just don't like getting scared, really. It's just not really my thing. So, this is something that doesn't pertain to me, but I know there's a lot of people out there who love this part of, they love Halloween for this exact reason. So that's something that is pretty cool here. Sorry, guys, let me flip over there so you can see this. So yeah, Utah Haunted House named a top U.S. venue to get spooked. Nightmare on 13th has been a popular Halloween attraction in Utah since 1990. Now the haunted house is receiving national attention. America Haunts announced that 5 of its U.S. haunted attractions had achieved what it calls legendary status. Nightmare on 13th ranked 4th in the country. So this is pretty cool. If you're into haunted houses, I think this is pretty cool information right here. And you can see that there's these other 5 listings here, or the other 4 listings rather. The Haunted Hotel in San Diego, Spooky Woods in Greensboro, Bates Motel in Philadelphia, Nightmare on 13th here in Salt Lake, and then 13th Gate in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So this is pretty cool here. They've got dates here. If you're looking at going to the haunted house, you can find that information right here. So that's the first thing I want to talk about. Before we jump into the market, let me come over here and we're going to talk a little bit about this interesting new development that they proposed for Draper and Holiday. Now, if you already live here, you'll know that Draper and Holiday are pretty exclusive areas. If you don't live here, well, now you do know, right? So Draper and Holiday are probably 2 of the most expensive areas within Salt Lake County. Definitely Draper is, in the top 5. Holiday is going to be probably number 1 when you look across the board. It might not have the most expensive zip code, but as far as some, the places where some of the most exclusive and most expensive homes are, Draper and Holiday are definitely, top 3, top 4 for the entire county of Salt Lake. So this is really pretty interesting information. I just wanted to share a couple highlights here about this. Draper has grown by 22.6% over the past 10 years, and 10% of that growth has happened within the past 5 years. Draper is historically a lot of farmland, and now that farmland is being developed over time. And so I think that's a big reason why there's a lot of growth going into the area. However, right here, Draper, the city planner, the city is called Draper, but then the guy's name is also, his last name is Draper. But it says he proposes 6 strategies to bring more moderate income and high density housing to the area, particularly near transit zones. Now, this is something that's kind of interesting to me because I get what they're trying to do and I get the reason for that, but I don't know that I necessarily 100% agree with the fact that this needs to happen. I mean, the reality is you're always going to have nice areas. You're going to have, not so nice areas, right? You're going to have a wide spectrum. You're going to have a lot of low income, middle income, high income areas. And that's kind of just the way it is. I mean, going into a very high end city like Draper and then saying, hey, we need a lot of moderate income, low income, high density housing in the area. I don't know that that makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, I get why they're trying to do that, but it's just not the best use of land. The residents who live there in that area are not going to be happy about it. Overall, I just don't think there's enough benefits to that to really offset the purpose or offset the cost of what it's going to take in order for that to happen. So it says they're looking to zone or rezone for higher density or moderate income homes to be built in commercial or mixed use zones near major transit hubs commercial centers, and employment centers. They also want to let higher density or new moderate income residential development happen in commercial or mixed use zones near those major transit corridors. And they want to apply for state or federal funds or tax incentives to promote the building of moderate income housing. So again, I think that there's a better way to approach this. I think if they went to a potentially cheaper part of the county and said, hey, we want to put in more units here, it's going to be more. It's going to make more economical sense for that to happen, and they're not going to need those state or federal funds in order to make that happen. So, as somebody who's kind of like against this, just getting these tax incentives to do this, I don't know that that's the best use of those taxes, frankly. So. Just kind of my 2 cents there. Draper has just 13 homes with accessory dwelling units, but 27 additional units are under review. This is another thing they're trying to do, is actually go in and allow people to have those accessory units, whether it's a basement apartment, whether it's a mother-in-law apartment, whatever it may be. That's something they're trying to change, but it's slow moving at this point in time. So they're trying to make those changes here. Let me go like that. But overall, out of, let's see, it says out of the city's 15,590 housing units, 12,000 are occupied by their owners and 3,400 are classified as rental units. So almost 16,000 units, and only 13, maybe 27, let's say 40 units actually have ADUs on them. So that definitely needs to go up. If you've watched the channel before, if you watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I'm a huge believer in ADUs. I think they're great for the community. I think they're great for the owner. I think they're great for the renter. I think there's a lot of benefits to that. And they definitely need to be pushed more heavily, at least in my opinion. Draper leaders say that the city currently needs 417 additional units for families that make less than 50% of the area median income, which would be up to about $46,000 per year. Meanwhile, 940 units are needed in Draper to house those who make less than 30% of the area median income, or up to $27,650. Now, this is, again, another interesting point here, because I look at this and I think, honestly, to try and make, to try and live in Draper, which is one of the most expensive areas in the county, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, nobody's going to be able to live there if you're making $27,000 a year or $46,000 a year. I mean, even if you're a single person, you might be able to get like a studio or a 1-bedroom apartment and really stretch for it at that price. You'd have to be really good at budgeting, but that's kind of just the reality of the market there. I mean, there's going to be areas that are 15, 20, 30 minutes away that are going to be more economical for you. So in my opinion, again, I don't know that it makes sense to try and cram in 940 units to house these people at the lower end of the range, especially in such a nice area. I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this below. If you agree with me or disagree, drop a comment, guys. I don't know if I'm off base here, but that's kind of just how I'm reading into this. I don't know that this makes a whole lot of sense to kind of force this legislative mandate to have this more affordable housing in such a expensive area overall. I think there's better ways to get affordable housing out there. The rent for those who make less than 30% of the area median income would be $411, and there are currently 0 homes in that range. Yeah, you're probably not going to find anything under $1,000 in Draper. Even a small studio apartment or 1-bedroom apartment is going to be at least $1,000. Realistically, probably like $1,200 or $1,400 on the cheap end. Draper, the city planner, noted in the report that the city has been historically rural in nature with large residential lots and also allows agricultural uses, which is definitely true. Now, coming down here, I just want to kind of skip to this and we'll move on to the next article here. But the new city general plan, if approved, would direct the city to study the current ADU patterns and create or allow for enhanced enabling regulations. Like I just mentioned, this is something I'm a big believer in, and something that needs to happen. We need to get more ADUs approved, and the cities need to loosen their rules around ADUs so that we can have more of them out there and be able to provide more opportunities, not only for homeowners, but also for renters who are looking for a cheaper place. It also says here, last thing here, city planners noted in the report, Holiday faces some challenges in creating more moderate income housing, including the elevated land values and exclusivity and resident opposition to dense housing. That's something you're going to run into just about anywhere. You're always going to run into opposition on dense housing, which is, I kind of agree with and disagree with at the same time. It just depends on the area, but nobody's going to want to live in a single family home neighborhood and then have all of this, big, these big apartment buildings going up around them. That's just not something that people want. So, I understand there's a lot of moving parts here. But it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens here. So that's a little bit about what's happening with this high density housing. Let's go over here and talk a little bit about this. So Salt Lake City wants to study permanently banning cars from downtown Main Street. This is something they did on these other streets. Let's see, I didn't highlight this one, but it basically talks about how Salt Lake City has started to they've taken a couple of streets downtown, and during certain times of day or certain days of the week, they'll actually close that road off to any traffic. And then it becomes a road where you can kind of walk in the street, right? So it allows for a safer area. It allows businesses to be able to get more patrons because parking does come at a premium in those areas. So although you do have to park further away, it allows you to kind of walk over to that area and kind of have some more mobility to kind of move around. So this is something that they're looking at doing more of here in the area. They want to consider permanently banning cars on Main Street, which would be pretty interesting. They're going to basically turn the street into a pedestrian zone, which I think is, possibly has some benefits, but also could have some downsides as well. So that'll be something that's interesting to see what happens. There's a lot of other cities that have done this with, success. And I think that Salt Lake could be right behind them with that. So let me just jump over here. If anybody's got questions, comments, concerns, go ahead, drop a comment in the description box below. I'd love to answer any questions that I can here on this live Q&A. I'm happy to do so. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the housing market here. So this article here, we're going to read a couple different articles here, and some of these are going to be conflicting, and some of these will be, they're going to tell two sides of the story here, and I'll kind of provide my input along the way. So this is basically saying that the housing slump is here to stay. What are we seeing in the market? This one I did not highlight either, but it brings up some really good points if you just look at these headlines. So inventory is still relatively low. So why are prices falling? Right now, we're sitting at about 10,000 listings on the market. And we were sitting at about 2,500 back in the beginning of May. So the number of homes on the market has actually quadrupled over the past, 4 months or so, 4 or 5 months. And so inventory has gone up, but it's still substantial. It's still quite a bit lower than, it's still quite a bit lower than where it should have been in a normal market, right? So why are prices falling? Well, I think everybody knows that prices are falling because interest rates are going up. That's no surprise here. It says right here, when mortgage rates exploded from sub 3% in late 2020 to now flirting with 6%, that simply priced out many Americans from qualifying for a mortgage. As of right now, they're actually closer to like 6.5%. This article is maybe 2 weeks old at this point. So that is something that's definitely affecting the market, right? So this says housing market predictions. This is looking forward. I want to actually go through this with you guys here and just talk about it. So what's ahead? Well, it depends on who you ask. Even though Goldman Sachs predicts the market will worsen in 2023, the banking giant still predicts U.S. home prices overall will rise slightly by 1.8% in 2023. So this is kind of interesting. They're saying, hey, we think home prices will go up, but we think that home sales is going to be down, right? The number of sales that are happening. Palacios and his firm predict U.S. home prices will see their first year-over-year declines in 2023. I agree with them. I think that, prices have already started to come down. Unless they just absolutely boom, we're going to see those year-over-year declines in 2023. I don't think that's any type of magic prediction or anything. I think that's pretty once we get into like May, June, July of next year, it's going to be pretty obvious to see that those year-over-year declines are coming. Same with these other firms, an analyst who called the 2005 housing market top and the ensuing bubble bust. Zelman's model predicts U.S. home prices to fall not just in 2023 by 4%, but in 2024 as well by another 5%. Again, that will depend on the regional market. I think this is true. I think that if you're in a market where people are moving to, I think there's a less likely chance that will happen, that we'll see prices continue into 2024. However, if you're in an area that people are moving away from, I do think that prices will probably continue to drop there just because there's not going to be that same amount of demand. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. Personally, I'm hoping that interest rates will start to come down as we go into next year. Interest rates will kind of start ticking down. Hopefully inflation gets under control and, maybe we see interest rates back in the 5% range by next year. Hopefully even in the high 4% range, which I think is pretty reasonable. I think that's a reasonable rate. I mean, we were at that level for many years. I don't know the exact numbers, but probably, we were fluctuating kind of in that like 4% range from, I want to say like 2016 to 2020, right before COVID. And that seemed to be like a pretty healthy number, at least from what I saw and kind of felt in the market, buying, selling homes, stuff like that. So I think that's a pretty reasonable number. And I think it would also allow for kind of some long-term sustainable growth. Yes, things are still going to be expensive, but that's kind of just the way that things go. Let me jump over here. Doesn't look like any comments yet, which is cool. So let's come back over here. The risk that inventory, as fast as they're rising, and demand, again, plummeting, that we could see pretty substantial price corrections. It's going to vary by the market. I don't think it's just going to end quickly. I think this is going to be a very pressured market nationally in 2023 and 2024, but it's going to vary considerably based on where that pressure is more significant than other areas. So there's some additional information here. This is a pretty long article here. I'm going to go ahead and skip to this other one and share some information with you here. These housing markets are significantly overvalued and may see prices fall up to 20%, according to Moody's. So if we come over here, as we've been talking about on the channel a lot, Boise, Idaho is overvalued, and I think it's actually listed as the most overvalued market in the United States. They say that it's overvalued by an estimated 76.9%, which is pretty crazy. There's some other cities here that are in the same boat. The Ogden, as far as Utah is concerned, the Ogden Clearfield metro area is the most overvalued market in the state, estimating the area is overvalued by over 50%. Now, the way that they actually come through and say, hey, this is overvalued or not overvalued, is they're actually looking at how quickly prices have risen over the last, I don't know what the time frame is, but like looking into the past, they look at what prices were and how quickly they rose, relative on a year-over-year basis. So that's why they're saying, hey, this is overvalued because the prices have risen too fast. And so now that's how they've come to that conclusion. Logan comes next, estimated to be overvalued by almost 44%. Salt Lake City at 28%. St. George at just over 27%. And then Provo-Orem Metro at 17%. So that's actually kind of interesting because I would say that, Provo and Orem is a great area to live. The thing that I've always looked at it, especially as an investor, is that the rents in that area are extremely low. So if you're looking to rent a place, definitely look at Provo and Orem. I think that's a great market. It's a great place to live. And for whatever reason, prices are still extremely low there. I don't know why that seems to be the case, but it is. Maybe it's because there's a big student population or something, but there's a lot of people, there's a lot of rentals out there, and the prices are just significantly lower than you're going to see in Salt Lake or even Davis County. So something definitely worth considering if you're looking to rent. If you're looking to be an investor, probably not the best market in my opinion. All right, this article here, cash buyers make up almost a third of U.S. home purchases. Nearly a third of all U.S. homes are being bought with all cash. And even though that trend has dipped slightly from earlier in the year, it's still up from before the pandemic sent the housing market into a frenzy. I want to come down here and talk about this. So mortgage rates jumped above 6% this week for the first time since 2008. And now is not an ideal time to seek financing for a home purchase. Yeah, obviously. So any buyer would likely prefer to pay cash if they're able to. However, cash buyers also flooded the market along with everybody else at increasing rates during the housing frenzy when mortgage rates were below 3%. So this is something that's really interesting. No matter if interest rates are low or high, there's going to be people out there who just prefer to pay cash, right? Buying a property with cash gives you a lot of flexibility, a lot of freedom, because basically you just have insurance and taxes and of course utilities and stuff on the property. We don't have a mortgage, right? So that really just gives you peace of mind when it comes to owning that property, that you don't have a payment on it. You kind of just own it and it's there. I've got a mortgage on all of my properties, but I definitely see the appeal to kind of that mindset. This was also a time when competition in the home buying arena was at an all-time high. Obviously, that was something that was affecting many buyers. Buyers faced bidding wars and struggled to make themselves stand out among sometimes dozens of other offers, and all cash offers were another way that buyers set themselves apart. It also comes down to a key part of why the housing market burned so hot during the pandemic. The sudden lurch to remote work allowed Americans to reevaluate their lives, sell, and use cash to buy homes in new areas. There's a lot of people that moved from, let's say California or Oregon or Washington, who, where home prices are more expensive. They sell their home there. They've got a bunch of equity. They move out here to Utah and they're able to pay cash because prices are significantly lower than where they came from. I want to come down here and actually go through this list right here. So where are cash buyers most common? Not surprisingly, it's actually in New York. So Nassau County in New York saw 66.5% of buyers purchasing cash. That's a crazy high amount. I would have never guessed that it was that high. I would say that if I had to guess, probably the highest I would have thought it would have been was probably 35, 40%. But no, this market here is at 66%. West Palm Beach, Florida, 56%. You've got a number of other cities here in Florida, Wisconsin, Georgia, Ohio, a number of cities in Florida, actually, between 40 and 45% here. Cash buyers are least common in Oakland, California, San Jose, Seattle, Washington, just because prices are so expensive in a lot of these areas, right? Pretty much all of these areas are going to be extremely expensive. I don't know about Virginia Beach or Pittsburgh, but I know that, basically every other city here is going to be really expensive, right? So there's just less people who can afford to pay cash in those markets. Now, obviously, Utah, no cities in Utah are listed on this list, but considering that the low end of I guess you'd say the high end of this range is at 20%, and this one's over here at 41%. You can assume that in Utah, we're seeing roughly 30% of homes actually sell for cash. Now, the interesting thing about this is there's a lot of off-market homes that sell for cash. I see tons of these deals, and I know that there's hundreds more that happen every single month that I never hear about or see. And those are technically selling for cash as well, a lot of times because they're getting private loans on them and are considered, still to be a cash purchase. So that's something that's pretty interesting. And I don't think that's being taken into account here. And that probably happens in every market. So it's kind of a wash. It doesn't really make a difference, but just some interesting information there. If anybody's got questions, go ahead, drop them in the comment box below. We've been talking about the real estate market here in Utah. I've got a ton of great videos coming out, so make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Share this video or this live Q&A with a friend or a family member, and don't forget to reach out to me if you're moving here or you already live here and you want to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. I'd love to help you do so however I can. All right, so let's come back over here. I just want to talk about this last article here. And it says that the housing market needs a difficult correction, according to the Fed, and in Utah, it's already happening. So after announcing another 0.75% hike to its benchmark interest rate on Wednesday, Jerome Powell said the U.S. housing market will likely go through a difficult correction before achieving better balance. So what does that mean? Well, we're already seeing it. Home price increases in some regions more than others are leveling off, if not starting to dip. We've already seen prices dipping. It's kind of interesting that they're reporting this, saying, oh yeah, it's starting to happen, because it's actually been happening for about 3 to 4 months now, depending on what data you look at. So that's something that's already happening. And I think it's going to continue to happen. We've already seen prices come down about 5 to 7%, depending on what market you're looking at and what price range. But I do think there's at least another 5 to 10% to go here in Salt Lake. And depending on how long these high interest rates stick around, will kind of determine how much those prices, how long it takes for those prices to come down, and how far they do come down, in the long run. So I think that if interest rates stay where they're at right now, we've easily got, 8 to 10% on prices for prices to come down. If they go higher, it could easily be 10 to 15%. Or if these high interest rates remain, let's say through the entire year of 2023, or even at least into the second half of 2023, I definitely think we're going to see 10 to 15% drop in housing prices. For the longer term, what we need is supply and demand to get better aligned so that housing prices go up at a reasonable level and a reasonable pace, and that people can afford houses again. We probably in the housing market have to go through a correction to get back to that place. The interesting thing about this, I've been thinking about it a lot, right? People always say, okay, it's supply and demand, and here in Utah, we have such a lack of housing overall, and that's been a big driver of why there's so many why prices have gone up so much. Now, I think if you actually look at this and you said, okay, what if we just dropped, like, if this was possible, right? What if we just dropped like 10,000 houses into the market and just said, hey, they're here. If you want to buy one or you want to rent one, come and get it. Here's kind of a reasonable rate for it. Here's a reasonable price. I wonder what would actually happen to the market. And I think if there was an oversupply of houses, I think prices would actually come down substantially. But I still think you'd probably get people complaining that prices are too expensive, or there's nothing out there, or, they're going to say, hey, I'm not going to pay, $400,000 for that home, or $600,000 for that home. I think that you still get those people out there. And, I don't know that prices will ever come down to a level where it's just considered affordable for everybody. Now, that's not to say that I don't think there's should be affordable housing options for everybody out there. I just don't know how likely it is to get to that point where it's just like, hey, everybody can afford a home and it's only going to take, 10% of your income to do so. I don't know if that's ever going to be realistic just because of, the way that the market works. So what does a housing correction mean for the West? Powell's language on Wednesday gave more insight into what Powell meant in June when he said the housing market needed a reset. There's been some speculation about whether that has meant the Fed's goal is to temper buyer demand to give a boost of inventory, or if the Fed actually wants home prices to decline. Fortune reported Thursday, but in the minds of some housing analysts, Powell's language this week strengthens the interpretation that the Fed's intent is to bring home prices down. The big picture here, I want to jump down here. Let's see. Now the U.S. is reckoning with an affordability crisis that it can't avoid. Enough would-be homebuyers have hit their limit and have pulled back rapidly over the last several months that it's had a dramatic impact on demand. Home prices in Utah and Idaho, the impact has been swift and dramatic, especially in the West. Local housing markets, including Boise and Salt Lake City, were among the cities to see the home prices skyrocket amid the pandemic and are now also some of the first to see prices dip as the frenzy fizzles. From May to August, Boise's metro area home values fell by 5.26 and Salt Lake City's fell by over 7%. This is kind of surprising. I actually thought Boise would fall at a higher pace than that. Now, there's a bunch of other information here that you can read on about this if you want. You can go ahead and pause this video, actually, if you wanted to read this information. There's just some numbers here. But, what we're seeing in the market is it's pretty crazy out there, guys. I'll just be totally honest with you. There is a lot happening. There's a lot of people who are looking at homes. There's a lot of people who want to buy homes, but honestly, it's just expensive. If you're looking at getting a mortgage right now, you're going to be heavily affected by those high interest rates, and that's going to reduce your purchasing power. And, I was even looking at numbers for a $500,000 home the other day, and the payment was like over $3,000 for this home with a pretty reasonable down payment. So that's something that I think is pricing a lot of people out. There's also a lot of people who want to sell, and they're having a hard time finding buyers, because of that same exact reason. There's a lot of people who own homes that are sitting on the market and are unable to sell because a lot of buyers have just dropped out. Now, I think that actually as home prices continue to come down, I think that there's going to be people who continue to jump into the market and pick and purchase those homes. And so I do think that will kind of insulate the market from dropping even more substantially as long as the number of sales doesn't go down. Right now, it's September 30th. I was looking at stats for the month of for the month of September. Let me just pull them up here while we're on video. Might as well. So the month of September is pretty much done. So we should have pretty accurate information here on what's happening. And I want to do this. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen one more time. If you're interested in this information, I know a lot of people love this. Let me go ahead and share screen. There we go. All right, so let me jump over here. So this is September of 2022. Sorry, camera reset. So in September of this year, we saw 3,098 sales. If we look back, compare this to last year where we had 4,517 sales. And if we go back to September of 2020, we actually had 5,392 sales. So sales were like almost double just 2 years ago in the month of September. September is usually a pretty busy month, but it declined last year because of low inventory, and it's declined even further here in 2022. Because of those rising interest rates. Now, the interesting thing here, if we look at these two columns, this first column is going to be the original listing price for a median priced home in the market. And this is going to be the median sales price. So for any of the homes that closed here in the month of September, we saw a median sales price of $495,000, which you can see is down from the all-time high of $540,000 that we saw back in May. Also, this is a percentage of what homes were selling for compared to their original listing price. So we've been over 100% since, let me just open this up and go back to 2019 to show this to you. Because right now we're actually sitting at, okay, so here we go. So this column right here, this percentage number, 95% is the median sales price to the original listing price. So homes sold for $495,000, although they were listed at $520,000. So every home's going to be a little bit different, but on a median basis, homes sold for 5% less than they were listed for. This goes against the trend that we saw for the last 2.5 years. We have to go back to May of 2020 to see that we were even under 100%, and still we're at 99% there. If we go back even further, you can see we're at 98, 97, 98, 99, 97 here. So it is pretty typical to see that homes sell for a little bit less than they're listed for, right? I think that's kind of what everybody's been used to prior to the pandemic, right? If you go out there and homes, if they're asking 500,000 for a home, then you're not going to offer 500. You're going to offer 480 or 490, right? Whatever you can get off of the price is what you're shooting for. So we're kind of returning to those levels, which I think is actually important. I think it's healthy, although it kind of hurts and the number of sales are down. I think it's actually something that is vital to a healthy market here at this time. If we come over here, this last column here is days on market. So the average or the median days on market was 31 days, which is quite high. You can see that this has been increasing over the last couple of months. But we really have to go back again to like the end of 2019 to see these same numbers here. Now, the thing about this is that's totally normal. It's totally normal to see days on market in that 20 to 30 days range. It's just that the last 2 years have been absolutely crazy. And that's been a big driver of why that's happening. So with all that being said, guys, I mean, this kind of wraps up the video. I want to hear, what your thoughts are on this. If you've got a question real quick, go ahead and drop it in the box below. I'd love to hear from you. I'm here to answer any questions that I can. And I want to be able to share my knowledge with you about what's going on in the market, what's happening with sales, what's happening with, whatever you want to know. I've got some great videos coming out about the water situation here in Salt Lake. I've got some great videos coming out for a couple different vlog tours where I'm actually touring some cities. I've got a new listing video coming out next week. We've got a whole bunch of stuff coming out on the channel. So make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And as always, if you are interested in buying or selling real estate, reach out to me. I love hearing from you people. I've had the number of people that have reached out to me over the last couple of years is over 700 at this point, and probably at least 100 of those have actually made the move in the last couple of years and worked with me directly. So I love hearing from you guys, and would love to hear from you, whoever's watching right now, if you're looking at buying or selling real estate or even investing in real estate. That's something I can help with as well. So that being said, I'm not seeing any questions come through. If you've got questions, reach out to me. My information is in that description box below. But at this point, we'll kind of go ahead and wrap up this live stream. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you in the next one. Oh, hey, I just saw one video or one comment. That was quick. Nature Nick, you're flying by the seat of your pants here. You joined late, but what are you seeing on rent price trends in Salt Lake City? Yeah, that's a great question. So rental prices here in Salt Lake have been increasing. I've seen rents go up substantially over the last 12 months. I actually had a couple of tenants of my own where I reached out to them. This was just recently. I reached out to 2 different tenants and said, hey, do you want to renew? We got to push rents up a little bit, but it's going to be a lot less than what else is on the market. And both of them said, no, we made other plans. We're moving out. And we went ahead and re-rented those units for about 12 to 15% higher than I thought I'd be able to rent them for. So prices have definitely gone up. Here in Utah, it's a seasonal thing. If you're looking for a rental between like May and September, it's going to be kind of the hot season. That's when everybody wants to move. That's when a lot of leases come up for renewal. So that's when you're going to have the most to pick from. But as we go into kind of the end of the year here, we're going to see that there's going to be less rentals on the market. As far as prices, I don't know. I think prices could continue to stay flat or maybe even go up when it comes to rent. Rent prices, if you actually look at it historically, very rarely go down. And if they do, it's only by a couple percentage points before they continue climbing, right? When's the last time you ever got a notice that, hey, your rent is going down next year? It just doesn't happen. Even if you're paying $1,400 for a place and you want to move to get an equivalent place, you're probably going to pay at least $1,400. You might get lucky and find something for like, let's say $1,350, but it's pretty rare to see rent prices actually go down over the long term. So hopefully that helps. Nature Nick, thanks for jumping in here. I know it was kind of an earlier live stream. I usually try to do these later in the night so that more people can go ahead and jump on and submit comments and stuff. But this one was kind of last minute. It just kind of worked out with the timing to go ahead and do it at this time. So again, thanks so much, guys, for watching. Really appreciate all your support here on the channel. Thank you so much. We're going to catch you in the next one.